So today I'm going to do something a little bit different. I'm going to be going over, well, I guess a bit of discussion on the format and how things have kind of shaped up. So we are now, as I record this, the 4th of May, and we're pretty much coming to the end of at least the first half of the format, because next week we've got our next set, and well, there's a couple of new interesting things there that I want to talk about. So, I think first things first, I guess for the format and review so far, I don't think anyone is shocked or surprised at the fact that Necros are still the most dominant deck, and arguably the ban list kind of made them even stronger because, well, their biggest rivals, which were, I guess, Vanity's Emptiness and Skill Drain, were brought down to 1 each. So while they lost a Bryanak and 2 preps, they kind of got stronger in other regards, so it kind of balances out. And if anything, I feel like the ban list helped Necros do better. I can't really, I don't feel like the consistency was hurt at all. Like, prep became a little more sacky. I think it's one of those cards where, to be honest, it should have stayed at 3 or just been removed altogether. Biggest card that I feel that should have been gotten rid of was this guy here, the Djinn. Well, it's not the Djinn. You know which Djinn I'm talking about. So I feel like if this thing was removed from the game, removed in the sense that if it was banned, well, I feel like we'd probably be in a healthier state because, well, I don't mind Necros searching as much as they want. I'm kind of upset at the fact that in order to keep Necros at bay, I sort of have to play bad cards like Book of Eclipse. And honestly, these cards aren't something you want to run like at all, because they just don't benefit your deck in any shape or form. And the only reason we're forced to play them is because of, well, I guess this annoying thing here. We've seen in recent weeks, like, that the entire decks have just been designed around, like, Djinn, with people running things like 2 or 3 Scolding and, Forbidden Lands to protect it, and it's just become such an ignorant format, and I really don't like how Djinn was left untouched. I feel like Necros could have kept everything, but the fact that they, still let them have Djinn, like, I'd rather they have 3 prep, 3 Bryo than 1 Djinn. Like, I'm being completely honest here, because whenever you play against Necros, you have to always be, wary of the Djinn, and you have to make sure your deck's prepared to deal with it. And that always involves playing bad cards, like Eclipse, like Raigeki, or like Dark Hole, which these cards, like, I don't think they're good. They're just necessary at the moment, unfortunately. And that's not a position you want to be in, and I don't feel like it's a healthy game state at all right now. But anyway, I don't want this to be a bit of a Necros rant video. We do have other things to talk about, so there's a new card coming out. I believe this is it. Necros Swordmaster. So it's a level 4 spellcaster, pendulum monster. These things are starting to get a little bit more popular, I guess, and Konami's trying to push them. But this guy is really relevant because his effect is that you contribute this card from your hand, tribute monsters from your hand and field, and then you can ritual summon a Necros monster from your hand, equal to the levels, blah blah blah. Essentially, he is a Necros ritual spell card. He's a new spell card in the same way that Kaleidoscope, X-Mirror, and Cycle summon out new Necros monsters. Now, this is sort of relevant because, well, this kind of gets rid of one of the biggest problems that this deck had in the first place. And we saw a bit of it from Chris LeBlanc at the weekend, and it's these cards here, Anti-Spell Fragrance and Spell Canceller. Tellarknights kind of, there was this sort of idea coming out, and shoutouts to my teammate Liam Tuwillian for giving me the idea and suggesting it for YCS Balkan in the first place. I just didn't have the money to go ahead with it. But Tellarknights have sort of become ignorant in their own regards because, well, they've started relying on pretty much, dumping their entire, like, floodgate monster engine thing like Thunder King and, the Canceller into the graveyard, and you can just, like, bring this guy out with one of your 6 Call of the Haunted in your opponent's standby phase, and, well, they can't play anything. And I feel like this Tellarknight deck was absolutely 100%, like, competitive and viable. I genuinely think this deck could have, competed, because as a Necros player, when you're staring down, a floodgate, you summon things like, I mean, you don't summon things, you play things like your MSTs and you flip your decrees, but when you're dealing with a floodgate monster, like Darklaw, like you just use the regular outs you would have to the Djinn, so you'll probably keep in things like Darko, Regeki, and put in maybe an extra Eclipse or something. The problem with Spell Counselor is that this doesn't, like, you can't out this as a Necros player unless you're playing traps, and if you're playing traps in Necros, well, I don't know, I mean, it's not particularly ideal, I would say. So I'm glad that Necros have an out to this, because I don't want to be in a format where we have to play with ignorant cards like this. I feel like Djinn is bad enough as it is. On the other hand, I'd rather, Tellarknight's got a bit better than Necros, because, well, I guess people are probably sick of seeing the blue deck by now. I mean, we've never been in, I don't want to say we're in a tier 0 format, we're certainly not, but I mean, before the kind of recent emergence of Shaddolls, I feel like that's kind of what we were heading in. And for any of you who haven't seen Jeff Jones's Shaddol deck, I highly recommend it, because I've never seen anything, I've never seen a player so, pretty much genius with their approach to the game and how innovative they are. And even last Shaddol format, Jeff Jones created some of the most, staple cards in the deck. And well, here we are now, and he's kind of brought us a new deck. And what we saw from YCS Bochum was pretty much the same thing being played. And we have this guy here. He was playing Shaddolls for YCS Bochum, and it was essentially Jeff Jones's build. And we got things like the triple Falco, which I never would have saw coming. I never would have thought, anything more than 2 Falco would have been ideal. But here we are, and different approaches. I guess that's how this game gets innovated. I don't think, yeah, well, that's pretty much it for Shaddolls. They do have their new ignorant card again. I feel like this is really bad direction that Konami is taking this game in, because, how they're making this in response to Necros, but I feel like I don't want to play a card that has to be so ignorant. It's like you just summon this thing and then win. Like, I mean, that's the idea behind it. I don't think it's good. I personally think this is a bad card. I feel like we'll probably see it play. Of course, we have to play it, but I mean, this doesn't deal with like Necros at all, because, well, Necros, like, when they play against each other, it's like, they're in the mirror match, and sometimes it's a bit of a fight of, who can Djinn who first. So they side in things like their eclipses, and if you're playing against Shaddol, well, you just gotta do the same thing. Now this woman's out, so you gotta play eclipses, and it's like, well, nothing's really changed for Necros. It's arguably the side deck's still the exact same thing. They haven't actually had to change anything at all. So this is why I don't think El Shaddol, I don't know what they've done to the TCG name, but I'm gonna call her Lilith. So Lilith was, this was the Shaddol response, and I felt kind of underwhelmed and disappointed when they revealed this. I was hoping it would be Trishula, some kind, because of the story of the Shaddolls and the dual terminal, some kind of Trishula variant would have been pretty cool. Everyone thought with a level 9 water fusion it had to be something like Trishula, but I guess this is what we got. And I don't like that this is the kind of direction that Konami are trying to take this game in, where, well, powerful monsters are defined by how much they're, making your opponent not play Yu-Gi-Oh! And I don't feel like that's a good way to treat this game. So yeah, going back to the weekend, we had the ARG, and this was the winning deck list here. Honestly, all I can say is that I'm so disappointed, because just looking at this, like, I think this was the winner. I'm pretty sure this was the guy that won. I just want to double check that, just because, like, oh god, whatever. Alright, I'm pretty sure this is the winning deck list here. Now, the reason I'm disappointed is because I'm just looking at this thinking, it is so painfully average. Like, it is just, there was nothing that stood out at me. There was nothing I thought was, like, super cool and crazy and amazing. Like, when you're in a format where the biggest thing that surprises you is like, oh my god, he played where is it? He played 2 MST in the main. That's crazy. That's so different. I mean, like that's the only thing that stood out for me was MST in the main deck. Like that's how bored I am with the game just now, and I feel like a lot of other players could be in the same situation. There's really just no diversity and no innovation. Like now, I don't want to be one of those guys who are like, "Ooh, Hunt format was the best because everything was topping." I don't mind the fact that Necros are the best deck. What I'm kind of disappointed in is that it's the same Necros deck. You know, at least with like Dragon Ruler format, like September anyway, we had like different kinds of Dragon Rulers. Even like Shadow format, we kind of like saw different kinds of Shadow decks. You had artifacts, and then you had like what did you have? You had artifact. There was something else as well. I don't know. But the main idea here is that you didn't really know 100% what kind of deck your opponent was playing against. Nowadays, if you show up to a tournament, you could 100% bet that pretty much like 9 out of 10 cards that they're going to have in their extra main inside, all of these cards here, they're going to be the exact same thing. Like, they're pretty much all going to be the same damn card, and it's like so disappointing. Anyway, there is some light at the end of the tunnel because we did see something very hilarious top, and this was this thing. I don't know how or why or what was going on, but this guy managed to make it to top 16, and well, I guess it's interesting because, well, there's a lot of bad cards here. I mean, credit to him, he made top 16, so what do I know? Unfortunately, he never got to play because he couldn't make day 2 like physically, so you know, potentially, who knows what could have happened. Now, he was playing all 6 hand traps, the relevant ones anyway, and this is where things got a little strange. You got 3 Helix and 3 Carrier. I guess those are sort of staple. You kind of sometimes drop one or the other for the other, etc. But he was playing 3 Stealth and 3 Shell, and I saw some discussion about this, and it turns out that the idea was that they're essentially there because you want to set up your scales, because Stealth and Shell are 9s, I believe, and the other ones are 1s. And essentially, you're playing such a heavy monster count because you got 3, 6, 9, 12. I can't count. You're playing quite a few monsters. And the idea is that you just want to get towers out turn 1 because, well, we've moved away from Clifford. People don't really, you know, side for them anymore almost. And it's like, how else are they going to win? And, well, we've got Clifford's big boss monster towers, so that was fascinating to see, I'm not going to lie. I'm surprised he did so well, but I mean, no offense and stuff, but like I just can't see this winning. I suppose 2 Scout and 3 Summoners are, with nobody really playing MST in the main deck. You can argue that he's almost always going to have his first turn Scout, so setting up the towers is not always going to be too difficult, because I was reading some commentary on Facebook, and apparently he was getting this thing out like turn 1, turn 2 maximum, like almost every single game. And well, a lot of decks just scoot because they can't have an out. I'm pretty sure Burning Abyss have to play like rank up to get around it. Necros used to be able to get around it really easily because of this card, Decisive Armor. And as I scroll through this, of the top 16, only 2 Necros players were running Decisive Armor. So if this guy came up against pretty much any other Necros player and he made towers, I think he probably could have won. I'm going back to the first deck list. I don't see anything here that outs towers. I think I saw something in the extra that I think Zubaba General was meant to be the towers out. I'm just going to double check that. From equip 1 warrior type monster from hand to this card gains attack equal to the combined attack of the monsters equipped to it by this effect. So I think you could like roll off or something, like DD Warrior Lady, which I think is like 15, and then you equip it to this, and then it's very convoluted and difficult. But yeah, there is a towers out in the main in that deck. So yeah. Anyway, I think that kind of sums it up. I think that was pretty much the last thing I wanted to mention was this crazy Clifford deck that we saw. It's you know, I'm not sure if Cliffords are pretty much going to come back, but I felt like the idea of, you know, just trying to spit out towers turn 1 is kind of relevant because, I mean, like, which decks can out it? Necros can out it very easily if they're playing Decisive Armor. Problem is, not many people are playing Decisive Armor anymore. But hey, I guess if Clifford ever come back and, well, Towers becomes a problem card in the meta, I guess it's not gonna really affect anything because I guess Necros players will just start playing Decisive Armor again. Well, anyway, I think there was something else I wanted to mention. Crossover Souls, I showed you the new Necros card that's coming out. This thing, I really don't like it, but Shaddolls is obviously one of my favorite decks. I think we got something here. Yeah, this is my deck currently. This is a couple of changes I still want to make. I'm 100% not sure at all from the side deck. Oops. Well, this is essentially still this is pretty much Jeff Jones's deck, and my side deck is essentially the side deck that me and my teammates made at our regional this year, and we pretty much played like sort of similar lineup. Nowadays, I think maining Shadow games is sort of relevant because it's just a slower format. The idea is that you side in the third beast for the mirror match. We were also siding in 3 Shadow games for the mirror match. But I feel like those things need to be main deck now. My extra deck, like everything here is pretty standard up till about, I guess, number 7. Maybe probably want to run Black Roads. I was trying Moonlight Dragon. I felt like if you could maybe make this turn 1 against like Necros, could be sort of relevant, maybe, but Unicorn just made it sort of obsolete. So I'm gonna take that out right now. It didn't work out the way I wanted to. It was kind of a bad idea, but hey, whatever. I kept Leo in here because I felt that maybe Burning Abyss would still be relevant, and you know, Burning Abyss have a very tough time getting around Leo. But even if I was worried about Burning Abyss, it's like, well, they play traps anyway, and that kind of defeats the purpose. Maybe back in Shadow Burning Abyss format when they didn't play any traps and they just went OTK ham central with econs and stuff, could have been relevant. I don't know. I'm probably gonna include another like rank 4 or 2. I'm pretty sure this is essentially Jeff Jones's deck card for card. I'm not sure how many Shadow games he played. But I dropped 1 Lancia for a Thunder King. I thought that was, you know, I mean, opening multiple mistakes for Thunder King is like, I don't even think it's bad. Honestly, I generally don't even think it's bad opening multiples of mistaken Thunder King, because if you're against Necros, it's like, well, that's how you win anyway. I'm sure you'll draw into something useful eventually, like a normal summon dragon or something like that, just to start pushing in for damage and not letting play. Anyway, I'm gonna work on this for a while. I'll probably leave it for a bit until we get to next format because, well, I guess that's what's relevant since this other deck I had was kind of obsolete till last week. I kind of don't want to have to play this card here, Nephi Shadow Fusion. A lot of people were talking about bringing this back just because, well, you need a sort of consistent way to get around, or not get around, but to actually make this thing. As much as I don't think it's that great of a card, I think that if it's backed up with something like, you know, Mistake, then it kind of works. But Mistake sort of works on its own anyway. I just don't think she's that great. I don't feel like these should be played instead of it, because Nephi Shadow Fusion is pretty bad. I also disagreed with Jeff Jones's theory of running 5 fusions over 6 because they're kind of bad after you draw the first one, and that's true, but at the same time, if you don't see your first fusion, well, you kind of can't play this deck. The problem I found with this deck is that if you're playing Shaddolls, you kind of have 2 opponents. You have your opponent sitting across from you, and you have your deck. That's your biggest opponent, because you can draw things like Fellis, Veiler, and Core, and like Darkhold, and just cards that don't merge well and work good together. Can't really do much. So I think the biggest problem that Shaddol deck has is pretty much the Shaddol deck. Now, instead of Nephi Shaddol Fusion, I was thinking about playing this card, Puppet Plant. I feel like this could be an interesting thing because pretty much everything in the Necros deck is a Spellcaster and a Warrior. You can take their guy, you can attack with like a Valk for 29. If they Valk your Valk, then you can chain L Fusion, you can dodge their Valk while at the same time fusing their Unicorn or Trish or whatever it is they've got on field. You fuse it away and you make an Ornament Lilith, and well, I guess if they're low on resources, they probably lose right there and then unless they can draw a Djinn out. Anyway, that's kind of my thoughts for the format so far going into Crossover Souls. This is sort of what I'm thinking about. Probably gonna drop these MSTs. I kind of don't feel like MST is relevant or necessary in any shape or form. There's no deck that I can really say I want to play this against. Clipboards are pretty bad. Yeah, I mean, one problem this deck has is, what's its name? Towers. There's absolutely zero outs to towers in this deck that I have right here. Earlier this year, me and my teammates were playing this as the towers out because they pay so much money and they pay so much life points, and then you summon this guy with Mathematician turn 1, and you kill them. Problem is, you gotta pray you get that Mathematician, otherwise you have no out for towers. But I don't feel like this thing is relevant anymore. Oh, I forgot to mention, this is one more card I wanted to talk about. Now, going into Crossover Souls, me and my teammates, we actually kind of discussed kind of not playing Shaddolls. Just dropping Shaddolls altogether. Why? Because next set, people and pretty much anyone with a rank 4 deck get this card here, Planetellonite Ptolemaeus. Now, this is relevant because Altair now is a 1-card diamond. Yeah, that's a bit of a problem. Diamond is a big problem card. Now, of course, we can run various Djinn outs, like Dark Holes, Raigeki, like Book of Moon, maybe some more things on the side, like maybe put in an Eclipse or something here. You kind of don't want to be playing Djinn outs against Satellanites. You kind of don't want to be playing Djinn outs against Evil Swarm. You kind of don't want to be playing Djinn outs against any other random generic rank 4 deck, because pretty much any rank 4 deck can make Diamond now, and I feel like that's just so unfair, and I kind of wanted to drop, yeah, Felgrand, I forgot, that was the thing I was supposed to include, because you can puppet plant the Valk and overlay Construct to Felgrand and then attack and then dodge Valk. Anyway, yeah, this thing is pretty relevant. I'm playing it here in this deck because in the mirror match, I guess, you know, you just make Diamond with this guy in any rank 4 combination. A little harder now to make rank 4s, but it's still doable. And yeah, it's just absolutely, you know, crazy. I don't know, guys. These cards are the reason why I thought Shaddolls probably not going to be relevant next format. This card I don't think makes up for the fact that everyone and their grandmother has a 1-card diamond. But yeah, I think that's about all I have to say now. Sorry for rambling on so much. Sorry for the lack of content. Hopefully I'll get something out in the next couple of days. I got a couple of ideas coming. I just wanted to make another video and make sure that people still know that this channel is alive. And again, I'd like to mention I am on study exchange in another country. I don't have my own equipment, my own computer and stuff that I regularly do. So the quality is probably dipped here, as you can tell by the audio quality. But yeah, thanks a lot for listening. Comment, like, subscribe as usual. Let me know what you think. If you enjoy this format, did you like it? How do you think the new set's going to change things? Was there anything I forgot to mention that was relevant? Just let me know. Thanks again, guys, and I'll see you next time.